Okay, so welcome back to lecture 3 in our Taras Mishpacha series. Today we'll be covering the Shiva Nakim and the Halachos of Halachos. Thank you to everyone who made this series possible. Thank you to Merkos Suite 302 for the broadcast for the Shlachos, and for all the women in Morristown who made cookies and set up and took care of all the details and contributed financially to make this happen. I just need to attach this to you.
I could put this in here if you want. Makes it easier.
Yes, and then I have a bobby pin.
However.
Stick stick this up here.
I guess that's what it feels like when somebody does it at you.
As someone else. Okay.
Okay, first of all, a good Chodesh and a good Yontif. I just want to mention that we celebrate Rosh Chodesh Kislev tonight. And we just have to express once more thanks to the Eibishter for giving the Rebbe another that many years. That the Rebbe gave after Tashon Abed Ches, when the Rebbe's health was Baruch Hashem restored. I mean, I was one of the little kids in 770 on that Shmini Atzeres. I was upstairs. Whoops, I'm not going to talk. We're going to go to Taras Mishpacha. But I'm saying celebrating in the 90 after Tashon Abed Ches, all the Batei Chabad, Mifta Sefer Torah, Rambam, Inyan Gol Mashiach, the Sichos, the Mamorim, the Kontresim, the dollars. I mean, this is like, wow. So we thank Hashem for that gift. And just like the Rebbe insisted on staying with his Chassidim during that period of illness, we could be assured that the Rebbe is with us in a different kind of way, and we will celebrate very soon the real Simcha, even more powerful than Rosh Chodesh Kislev, and it should be now. We're ready to dance. Okay, so now getting back to work about first we have to finish Shiva Nakim. And I just want to there are 2 points that I want to mention from last time. One was about the moich dachok. When you have the moich dachok, which is that bedika cloth inside of you from before Shkia till after Tzeis, on Shabbos and Yom Kippur, it's called carrying if you don't have an Erev. Okay, so just be aware of that. A tampon you can use, it's not carrying, and sanitary pads, etc. But this is called carrying, and no, you cannot pin it or sew it or otherwise attach it to your underwear. If you have to be in a place and you can't be, and you need to do that moich dachok, and you don't have a possibility of not staying home or where you go, can you ask for bedika cloths over there? Ask your Rav what to do, okay? Another thing I want to tell you was about, I was getting messages about contacting some fertility specialists for different problems that people have, the ones that are kind. First, there's different levels. The first tier I would try is ask your own doctor. Anybody should ask their own doctor if they want to give options for treatment. How will this affect fertility? Sometimes if you just ask the question, they'll say, let me check that out. So that's number one. Then there's an organization that I think I mentioned last week called torashamishpacha.com. That is their expertise. And if they don't know the answer, they are supposed to do the research for you. Now, if you did that and you're still stuck, then I'll be happy to connect you to this private doctor who does a lot of mitzvahs. He needs another 613 mitzvahs every single day. Okay? So that was about that. And now we did our moich dachok today before Shkia. We did our hefsek Torah today before Shkia. Today is Wednesday. Tonight, when we go to sleep, we have a white sheet on our mattress. That is, we keep that minig, even though we are wearing good white underwear. Now, before people wore underwear, people slept without underwear, and the first generation of underwear was boxer shorts, not fitted underwear. So it was accepted that women wore white nightgowns as well. Now that we have fitted underwear, there is a debate of how much of a hiddur is a white nightgown and a white top sheet. So that you discuss with your Rav if you should do that as well. Definitely it's something that women have done for many generations. How it applies today, you should ask your personal Rav. Now then became a new concept called pajama pants, which didn't exist originally. So this is also debatable. If you're wearing white underwear and you're having a white sheet and you have colored pajama pants in between, how does that work? So ask your rabbi if you do wear pajama pants, if it then should be white as well. Okay, so that's about we're going to sleep tonight. Now, if you travel, you take along in your package your white sheet. It doesn't have to. Your white sheet does not have to be on your mattress 24/7, just when you sleep. And those of us that have the hiddur of surrounding our guf in white, meaning we'll have white nightgown, or if it's pajama pants, we also have a white top sheet, that we have the bottom sheet white and the top sheet white. So you bring that along as well, or you could have, if you sleep like a mummy, you could have a huge white king-size top sheet and wrap yourself. That's also an option. But when you travel, you take it along with you. I do want to mention that if your suitcase gets lost, and it does happen, until you get to Kmart or Walmart, you can continue with your white days even though you have colored sheet on your bed. Like you purchase it ASAP, okay? So that's how we do it. As long as the sheet that you're sleeping in is free of any blood stains, it's fine. So too with the underwear, if you ran out and you lost your suitcase or whatever, until you purchase it, as long as they're clean, it doesn't invalidate the count, but we make sure to get it as soon as possible. And now we're going to wake up tomorrow morning. Today we did the Hefsek Tara, it's day 0. Tomorrow morning is the first day of the 7 clean days. So every day for 7 days in a row, we do 2 bedikas daily. No washing, no moich dachok, just 2 bedikas daily. 1 in the morning after sunrise is the proper time. Now I don't know what time Morristown sunrise is, but it could be quite late if you wake up and get your kids off to school. So, what? That's very early. Does it get to 7:30, 7:45? When I lived in Detroit, it was 7:50, in the middle of carpool. What? No. So check the calendar, 25. So check the calendar, because the proper time to do the bedika is after sunrise. Okay? You should do it as soon as possible after sunrise, because it's supposed to be like when the night is over, we do the bedika. Now, if you wake up in the morning and it's already sunrise, you're supposed to do the bedika before any shower, etc. If it's not yet the time to do the bedika and you take a morning shower, that's fine, and then you do the bedika at the right time. Now, if you sleep in Shabbos morning, you're not required to wake up at sunrise to do that bedika. That's a misunderstanding. When you wake up, that's your morning, and you do the bedika right away. Okay? So that's 1 bedika in the morning. And then the second bedika is before sunset. Again, as close as possible to sunset, from plug and on, of course, is best. If you need to do it earlier because of carpool or something else, better do it earlier than skip it. Because if you missed sunset, you missed the day. So that's 2 bedikas daily for 7 consecutive days, which means 7 days in a row. When you do your bedika, either in the morning or in the late afternoon, you should have in mind what day it is. Some people have the custom to actually say, some people have it in mind, but you should be aware, today's day 1, today's day 2, today's 3, like the pasuk says, v'sofra Allah, she does that count. Also check your underwear, not 1,000 times a day. When you do your bedika, it's a great time to check your underwear, make sure it's still stain free, and if there is a stain, you can deal with it accordingly, okay? Now, 7 days in a row, you do these bedikas. What happens if one of the bedikas are questionable? So first let's discuss if one of the bedikas are no good. If, let's say, it was day 3 and you did a bedika and it was no good, okay? Or you found a stain on your underwear that was no good. What happens now? Your count is invalidated and you have to go back to Hefsek Tara. You don't have to wait 5 days again, but you restart from as soon as the bleeding is over. If it's bleeding that day, it's over. You do a Hefsek Tara that day before sunset. If you have to wait for the next day, to the next day. But as soon as the bleeding is over, you do a new Hefsek Tara, so you're back to day 0. And the day after that will be the first day of your new count. Again, 7 consecutive clean days in a row. So too, if there's a questionable bedika and you're not like living next door to the rabbi and you're like running out of your house, showing him the bedika and running back in, even if it's questionable, and as you're married enough, you already know if it's really a question, you can make an educated guess, it pays to do a new Hefsek Tara right away before sunset. Because in case that bedika is no good, at least you're back to day 0 and the following day can already be day 1, versus if you wait till the Rav answers, you may lose some precious days in between. So a Hefsek Tara would be washing, rinse off the area, make sure there's no residue of any more of whatever came out. Washing, bedika, you are wearing white underwear, and you do a moich dachok. Most of the time, this moich dachok for the recount is more important even than the moich dachok at the end of the period. So if you just did a new bedika and you did not do a moich dachok for the hefsek tara of the recount, so to speak, ask your Rav in your situation what to do, how that works, okay? And you will continue with and the next morning will either be day 1 of the new count, or let's say day 4 of the old count, pending on the Rav's answer on this shaila, okay? What happens if you forget to do a bedika? Does it mean you're a human being? Yeah. We don't forget on purpose. If you find yourself forgetting, first of all, when you wake up in the morning, especially if you're enveloped in white, you're going to remember the morning bedikas, and you do it before you go downstairs, before you go to the baby, before you go to whatever. If you do it right away, the problem is when sunrise is later and you have to start your day and you have to remember to go back to the bathroom. What?
The problem is when you wake up like hours before.
Right, we said that. Okay. We even minutes before it could be, when every minute is precious and we're running, But we get to the bathroom right away. You make a deadline, okay? In the afternoon, it's more busy, it's more hectic, so you may have to put whatever reminders will remind you. That's what cell phones can be created for, but some of us are good mothers and we turn off those cell phones for 2 hours straight because we want to focus. So there are other reminders that I'm not going to announce here, over the whole wide world, but there's some little reminders that could help you get to the bathroom, okay? But if you do forget, you continue your count, okay? If you forgot a bedika, girls, young ladies, old ladies, middle-aged ladies, you continue your count unless, okay, there are 3 bedikas that you'll have to start, you can't miss at all. One is the hefsek tara bedika. There's no way you could get to the mikveh without that. You need 1 bedika on day 1 of your count and 1 bedika on day 7 of your count. The other, of course, we have to do all 14 bedikas, but if you, by mistake, forgot one, you don't have to start all over again. Now, sometimes, if a woman suffers from different issues and will not be able to get to the mikveh in a timely fashion if she does all 14 bedikas, the Rav may tell her to do fewer bedikas for whatever reason that is. It's very personal. You cannot decide on your own, let me skip them because my friend, my sister, my who knows what. You must ask a shaila, a Rav, if you are allowed to skip some of the bedikas, etc. Now, if a Rav tells you to do the minimal bedikas, you have to be very careful. Because if you did a hefsek tara bedika, you did day 1 of bedika, and if you forgot to do, and you didn't do any other bedikas, because the Rav said minimal, and you did not do a bedika on day 7, you are going to have to start again from which day? Day 1. Day 8 will become day 1. Yes. No, you don't have to do another hefsek tara. You're back to day 1. However, if you have done another bedika at any day, if it was on day 2, so day 2 will become day 1, and day 8 will become day 7. If you did not do any bedika on day 2, then maybe you did a bedika on day 3. But if you did no bedikas, except for the bare minimum, it might get you into trouble if you forget day 7, which is why some Rabbanim will say, do day 1, 3, and 7. Because even though the day 3 is not halachically mandatory bedika per se, but it will be a save if a woman forgot day 7, then day 3 can be day 1, and day 9 will be day 7. So you're not going to the mikveh a week later, you're going to mikveh 2 days later. So just be very vigilant. If the Rav gives you a heter to do fewer bedikas, don't skip, because that may make it more complicated for you. Okay? And hashkafically, we could discuss at a later time, and we'll have just a hashkafa time at another date in the future, about doing every bedika is a sign of Yir Shemayim. When we know, we can supposedly, maybe if we skip one, it's not the end of the world, but it's really our attitude that we tell the Eibusher, I will go out of my way. It is hectic. I just got all the kids into the car, and now I have to run back in. Should I leave them? Is it safe? Is it not safe? And this is, we make choices. Are we going out of our way because the Eibusher likes it that way, or are we taking the easy way out? Okay? And if you need more tips, I'm sure your mashpia could help you on a practical level to have that balance. So now we did our 7 clean days, 7 days in a row, and today is day 7. What's so special and unique about day 7 is that tonight is the night that we're going to Toivel. So there are a few things you need to know. I'm a list maker. So this is my list for day 7. Number 1, on day 7, we avoid creating a chatzitza that's difficult to remove. The halacha discusses wax, which means we don't go do waxing on the day of mikvah. And if you needed to do it, if you did it like the day before or whatever, just put on those black cotton tights or socks. Just make sure that all the wax is really, really off, you know? So waxing, or maybe don't clean your leichter. If we don't handle dough, which means we're not going to make challah, we're not going to make dough. If you always make challah Erev Shabbos and you're going to the mikvah Friday night, you're allowed to make challah Kavod Shabbos. It says just be careful to clean your nails well. I will suggest use disposable gloves. It makes a very fluffy dough, by the way, and definitely makes it much easier. No, especially the whole wheat. You want to make, you don't want, okay, no more stories. You can do that. So if you're a preschool teacher, at least you could be in control. If you're the assistant to the preschool teacher, to get complicated, always have gloves because the Play-Doh, the clay, what I was going to say, glitter, please. I used to say if it's my child's birthday and I'm going to the mikveh tonight, do not send me home the dripping glitter birthday hat. Now I have to say my 8 o'clock because my youngest already graduated preschool. Oh. But anyways, you get what I'm saying? Glitter can get stuck everywhere. We don't handle. So even though it says in Shulchan Aruch, it says dough and wax, but we know as women other problematic chatzitzas. Some women avoid wearing waterproof mascara the day of mikvah. Why? Because did it ever happen that you took off your mascara, you thought the night before, and you woke up in the morning, and what do you have over here? Okay, what is it? Mascara. So see, the rest of the makeup, you could see that you took it off. But mascara around, round and around, is more of a difficult challenge. We try to avoid it if we can, and we're not the waterproof kind, and we just don't cry. We make sure to make it a very happy day. So that's as far as mascara, okay? It also says to avoid food that gets stuck in the teeth. Now it says in Shulchan Aruch, the custom is we don't eat meat or chicken the day of mikvah unless the Shabbos or Yontif or a Suda that we are supposed to eat meat or chicken, right? And then we clean our teeth well. Even though it could be soft boiled chicken and chopped meat, but the minig is the same. We can eat chicken soup and mashed potatoes with gravy and flesh chicks, but not the flesh or the chicken. We know other foods that can get stuck in teeth. Who would want to make some? Well, you know your teeth, and if you don't know them yet, get to know them. But popcorn, taffy, this one says stringy mango, whatever gets stuck in your teeth, you'll make that munchy, crunchy party after mikvah. And before, don't eat baby food all day, but keep the food that it doesn't get stuck in your teeth, okay? So that's avoiding chatzitza on the 7th day. What else? Okay, we don't take haircut of the head within 3 days of mikvah. We do it earlier in the week because hair goes everywhere. After a haircut, it'll land up on your next pedicure cloth. Don't ask me how. Shaving also, shaving of legs or underarms, etc., preferably not to do day of mikvah, preferably to do the day before. But if needed, it can be done the day of. Just don't get any cuts. That'll take a little time till it stops the bleeding. But make sure you wash away all the little hairs. Okay? So that's something else to consider. Now, some of us have a situation where you have something that you're concerned about. Yes?
Just about the hair cutting. I was told that you're supposed to cut your hair like a little snip.
Good question. That's not what we're talking. We're talking about a full haircut. Don't do the day of mikvah. This, I was going to say young lady, I don't know if I'm insulting you or not, but brought up just a minig. It says in Kabbalah that the tumah of the period sits in the nails and in the hair. So that's why we cut our nails well before mikvah. In some communities, they have this custom of Kabbalah to cut their hair when their period's over, the amount that would have grown. Some will do that full shave, those Hasidic communities, or just a little. And some will do a symbolic snip of a hair of a scalp, which doesn't go anywhere except for where you snipped it, as a symbolic removal of the tumah that extends from the scalp that lands during your period. But if you do this, just do it b'li neder, because if you forget to do it, it could be problematic. Okay, so if you decide you want, yes?
I heard that you just take that piece of
Right, so some will pull it out of the scalp. That could be painful. So the Rav said it doesn't have to be pulled out of the scalp. You could give a little snip for the symbolism, okay? But good comment. Now, sometimes you have a chatzitza that you know is going to be a shaila. Maybe somebody has stitches, maybe some other situation. Don't wait for last minute. If you have 12 days notice and you know it's happening, because sometimes, I know from mikveh attendants, there's feedback. She came to the mikveh and she expects, like on the spot, to find the Rav that will deal with it. Sometimes you need a doctor to deal with it or something else, you know? So if you have something, deal with it early. Of course, we prepare emotionally, make it a special day for you. Don't shop till you drop into the mikveh, so to speak. Could you imagine your husband decided to paint the house and all of a sudden, and you're waiting for him to go to the mikveh, like the other way around, and you're like, hello, priorities over here. And then, oh, it's 9 o'clock. He'll fly into the mikveh. And you know what happens when you're tired? I know what happens when I'm tired. The little hair that the cleaning lady didn't clean becomes a huge mound of hair and become a whole sob story and interferes with the whole mikveh experience, because the Satan, just like Erev Shabbos, before Lich benching, it says the importance in Zayah of a woman benching Lich with simcha and the brachas it brings down, and the Satan tries to stop that. So mikveh too, you want to come with simcha and positive energy, because the mikveh is in preparation for the most beautiful mitzvah that's available. You want to be in that most positive spirit? Plan. Make it an easy, special day for you. Sometimes you won't be able to. It'll be a crazy day because you have no control over that. But when we do have control, please make it special. And remember, we have to begin mikveh preparation while it's still day. And it doesn't just mean take out your earring. Something of a real chatzitza removal, for example, taking off your nail polish, taking off some makeup, cutting your nails, your toenails. If you're not planning to eat anymore, brushing or flossing your teeth, we do something while it's still day. Then you could continue, and then before tefillah do the rest. But we begin chatzitza removal. If you cannot do it close to the end of the day, even do it in the morning. Or take to work your nail polish remover and go to the bathroom for 5 minutes, you know? You could try to do that. Remember to do both bedikas. Some people, times the 7th day is a little hectic. And some people already start going to the mikveh earlier, before it's even time. They start driving to the mikveh. Remember to do that final bedika before sunset. Now, another few details about the 7 clean days. If I'm supposed to go to the mikveh tonight, but my husband is not available for intimacy, what do? There are different opinions what to do. You have to ask a shayla. Al pi Kabbalah, there's a preference of delaying mikvah till your husband is available, because the kedusha that you have after tefillah, you transfer to your husband. If he's unavailable, the evil spirits want to siphon that off. So there's a concept of delaying till he's available. If mikvah is delayed, al pi halacha, once you're past your 7 clean days, you do not need any more white. You don't have to do any more bedikas. There may be customs of additional bedikas. You could ask your Rav about that. Now, if delaying mikvah poses difficulty, or delaying it will mean going to mikvah on a Friday night, which some people, sometimes it's not, if it's not that night, it's not the thing to do. So you ask your Rav if it's okay to go after the 7 days, if it's at that night or any of the nights before your husband is available, and then he will direct you what to do. There are customs, al pi Kabbalah, how to chase away those evil spirits, like sleeping with a knife under your pillow, having a child in bed with you, a garment of your husband, and different things. Your Rav will direct you, okay? And then you can ask, if this happens again, do I have to call back, or I can have the same guidelines, okay? Another thing is if you're flying in the 7 clean days, okay? First of all, when to do bedikas. It's not when you're up there in Shemayim, you have to do a bedika when it's at the right times, when it will be down here on earth. When you're up there, you could see the sun for much longer. So ask a shayla about the timing of bedikas, and we suggest don't wait till last minute. You know, the morning bedika, you have a whole day, because if you wait till the last minute, there's turbulence, there's the ladies with the carts of whatever, and then there's the long lines, etc. So don't wait. Always do it earlier if there's a doubt, because earlier, most of the time can be okay. But if you missed sunset, you missed it. Again, sunset on earth, not in heaven. Another thing is, if you need 7 sunrises and 7 sunsets for the 7 clean days, not 7 times 24 hours. So you go by where you are. Like if you travel from here to California, today's my 7th day. In New York, in New Jersey, I could already tovel. But in California, I have to wait those extra 3 hours. Or it works the reverse as well. I'm going to Eretz Yisrael, it's already night. I can already tovel. I don't have to wait an additional 7 hours. Okay? So 7 sunrises and 7 sunsets. If there's any other detail that you think, as a woman, I could add about the 7 clean days, because I don't have enough time to look through these tiny little words over here. I should make them huge because of my age. Please pass up the notes, and we're in this together. We're all Jewish women doing the mitzvah the best that we can. There's tips, if something that should be added, pass them up, and at the end we'll fill that in. And now we're going to go back to this main chapter of today, which is called Dinei Harchaka. The laws of Harchaka comes from the root word of rachok, which means distance, which is how husband and wife have to keep the proper distance between each other during the nida time. Again, in a fancy way, it's called how to stay in touch without touching. But, so this is what I'm going to do. I will first do the halacha part, and then we will do some hashkafa, because I think this is one chapter that has so many no's. It can be very scary. It's the only chapter that has so many noses, but you have to remember the nose is really there for a bigger yes. So I want to discuss the full picture. So I think halacha comes before hashkafa, because the main point of this shir is the halacha, okay? And we'll add more. Okay, we're going to take these questions. These are good questions, but we'll take them at the end just to keep privacy. Okay, Dinei Harchaka. So number one, I want to tell you that the Harchaka is not something extra. It's halacha. So we know that intimate relations between, marital relations between husband and wife is the Isser Kares during Nida. Hugging and kissing and any touch, any affectionate touch, is a Isser Loisasei Dairaisa. It's like, don't eat chazer, don't kiss your wife. Don't kiss your husband when you're nida. The reason I'm pointing this out to you is that people don't realize. People make a mistake and they think, like Shabbos, you're not allowed to write on Shabbos. That's the Isser Dairaisa. So Hashem says, Chachamim say, don't touch the pencil. So that you won't write. Touching the pencil is from the Chachamim, it's not from the Torah. And people think this hugging and kissing is the same. Because we can't have intimate relations, the Chachamim added, don't hug and kiss. There's a separate Isser. You're not allowed to hug and kiss when you're Nida. So you don't do it by mistake. Or any affectionate touch. Now, so that's a no, 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 no. Then there are many other rules. Some of them are Derabanan, some of them are like Minhagim, some of them various levels of halacha. We're going to treat them all the same, because this is what we do. As we go through, you're going to see sometimes there are various opinions. Some Rabbanim say like this, some say like that. You can ask your Rav how to practice. I can't come here and say there's one way, because I do not speak, usually if I come to a certain community, I speak with the Rav and say, what do you say for your community? But now that Chabad is broad, not everybody, before telephones and before emails, people kind of stuck to Rav within their own community. Now it's much more complicated. So therefore, I am sorry if I'm going to be a bit more confusing and may say, some say like this, some say like that. Ask your Rav what to do. You could just email one long list of questions after tonight and have that clarity instead of calling each month, okay? So I also want to say, whatever I'm going to say, all these rules apply. When do they apply? For sure, when you become Nida, but I want to add another little detail. If even you have a shaila, if you have a question, you're not sure if you're Nida, they all apply. Because if you're Nida, they apply. Now, if you find out that you're in essence not Nida, so then you don't keep them anymore. But at least you know from the first moment you did it all correctly. In addition, on Yom Kippur, when intimacy, I'm using the word intimacy for physical marital relations or whatever those words are, but that's what I mean by intimacy, okay? Just to keep it a little edo, and I want to keep, okay? So that's what I'm referring to after. In halacha, you have to make it straight. Intimacy is forbidden on Yom Kippur, min haTorah. We practice these dinei harchaka on Yom Kippur. Now, Tisha B'Av, it's forbidden from the Chachamim, and so too, if a husband or wife is sitting Shiva, intimacy is forbidden. So how many of these Dinei Harchaka apply? For sure, affectionate touch and sharing the bed will apply. All the rest, there are differences of opinion. You could ask, we should never have another Tisha B'Av, Mashiach is coming, and nobody should have to be sitting Shiva. So if it does apply, and I will tell you, there are various opinions. When my husband was sitting Shiva twice, between all the siblings, everybody had variances, so it was just very interesting. And we're all Chabad, or identify as Chabad. Okay? So that is about when they apply. Now, they all apply even if you feel this does nothing between me and my husband. I mean, I can't pour him an orange juice in front of his face or put it down. Well, nothing's going to happen between us. Or he could see my toes. Like, really? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you feel between you and your husband goes on. These halachos are non-negotiable. What I'm going to say is non-negotiable, and it says in halacha, in addition, besides these basics, if there's something between you and your husband, a certain look, a certain word, a certain sentence, a certain something that causes arousing feelings, then for you it's usur. So what I'm going to tell you is the basic minimum. Now, of course, chas v'sholom, you have to be realistic. Don't add extras that are unnecessary. We're just saying, but between you, if there's something unique to you as a couple, you got to keep that as well. This also includes, you can't say, I'm going to get so embarrassed, or tznius. Everyone's going to know. It's more modest if I don't make an announcement. They all apply. In fact, it's the opposite. You are showing that you're Shemayim. Hashem is number one in your life, and the rest of the world is number two, all the way down to the biggest number is, my kids told me, I forgot what's it called, Plex something? Google Plex. I don't know what that means, okay? So, all the way down to there. Okay, number whatever, okay? So Hashem is number one. Now, I do want to add that there is a source for, I don't know if you call it a minhag, it's not a custom. I would rather call it a hanhaga, which is a way of behavior. By certain from Jews, including some Chabad, that in public in general, we practice Dinei Harchaka all the time, not just when we're nida. Again, it's not a minhag, it's a way of life for some. In public, we practice them all. Again, this is not for everyone. It's not a minhag, don't faint. No, you're not putting on a siman hecker. People are not noticing, oh, she's putting down. I mean, noticeable Dinei Harchaka. Passing, etc. Things that are noticeable. Again, it's number one, it serves as a good purpose of keeping our privacy, because when it's only between us, you won't feel embarrassed if you're neither or not. It's only between you. And why should people know, why should you know my status today? Really? All of you people should know if I'm neither or not. What's your business? So like this, if I keep it private, it just makes my Kodesh HaKadoshim more holy. In holiness, we keep it more private. The more we value our relationship as being holy, the more we keep it private. So also on a practical level, you won't get into snags, because if you're doing it all the time, you know already what you have to do or don't do to avoid uncomfortable situations, because it's like part of your life. But this is not for everybody. Definitely, if it has to be the husband and you have to both be in it together, right? And it's not for everybody. I'm just saying, if you're embarrassed, think of it the other way. If you always do it, you'll never be embarrassed. If you feel that embarrassment is something that would stop you from doing it correctly, although we get periods, what's it to be embarrassed? We didn't do anything wrong. It's like even when the girls, I'm a college teacher, like, my period came the wrong time. Like, who made your period come the wrong time? You didn't do anything wrong. Like, Hashem made it happen. Like, we're women. So like, what's embarrassing that that you have your period? Baruch Hashem, you have your period. It means you're a healthy woman, et cetera, et cetera.
Is there a source for behaving that way?
There are sources of behaving that way, right? Actually, yeah, it's in a sefer that I just read. No, it is. I'll show you the makar in the sefer that I have it right here in my bag. No, there's a source. I also want to tell you that the Rebbe suggested it. That's the minhag of the Rebbe's family, minhag beis harav, to somebody that I know, but it doesn't mean it's for everyone. So I want to make it clear. It's not for everyone. It's a suggestion for some, but on the other side of the coin, I want to tell you something else. even if we don't, and this I have to say, even though it doesn't have to do with Dinei Chaka, just 1 minute. Sorry, I have a cold and I forgot to bring my tissues up to the front. I'm sorry. Oh boy, do you have a napkin there anywhere? I can't, oh, here, I found them. Oh yeah, exactly. How did you know? Okay, sorry. Okay, so when we're tahar, we don't display affection in public. It says in Shulchan Aruch. So not practicing Dinei Harchaka is one extreme. But even if we don't practice Dinei Harchaka when we're tahar, which is perfectly acceptable halachically, what's not acceptable halachically is displaying affection between husband and wife in front of others. This says in Shulchan Aruch. Okay? Physical affection for sure. We're talking about the physical affection. And if you want to know more about it, you could ask your rabbi to what extent. But this is something that says in Shulchan Aruch. It's not something that's just hearsay. Okay, so now we know when they apply. We want to add another little detail. If somebody's ill. So if somebody is like in immediate danger, you're not going to think twice. You just stabilize the situation. But if somebody is ill that needs help, you ask a shaila what you're allowed to do for each other, because it's a very individual when you would have to ask somebody else to do it or hire help, or you could do it in a permitted fashion. So you should never be so ill, your husband should never be so ill, that you should require assistance one from another. But I'm not going to go into the details, but you have to ask a shaila. Now when the Torah says, lo sikravu, you shall not have any closeness, so it's defined as closeness that can create any sensual pleasure between each other. So that means senses, sensual. I like to do it not the way it says in Shulchan Aruch. I like to do it in the order of the 5 senses, because then it's only 5 rules, really, not like 1,005. So I'm going to do it in that order. And some of them are more complex than others, so whichever order we do. Okay, so here we go. Touch. You may not touch each other, even with a 10-foot pole. Like, what extends from you is you, okay? So if you're holding something, you can't touch each other that way either. Your garments that you're wearing are you, even if you're wearing 7 layers. Your garments cannot touch his garments. That is the rule. So if you remember, you cannot touch each other, even clothing to clothing. Now let's get practical. When can that apply? So the Sfarim bring different situations when that will apply, meaning if you technically can manage not to touch each other, then you're okay. The Sfarim are bringing situations where you really have to be very cautious because it's so easy to touch each other and we don't wait till we touch. So don't do this so you won't come to touch. Okay? And what are some examples? So of course, the way you sit next to each other, walk down the street together, etc., you'll figure out the right amount, that you're not too far, not too close, whatever. But here we have, let's say, for example, you're sitting on a plane together. So if it's a short plane ride, okay, it's 2 separate seats, and you could sit like this, and he could sit like that, and your legs are this way, and his legs are there, and you could manage. And the third person, every time she wants to go to the aisle, he moves his legs, you move you could figure it out. But if it's going to be a longer flight, especially if you're going to doze off, what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. What's going to happen? You could touch each other. So if you could put something between you and you're awake and you can manage not to touch, you can perhaps manage. But if it's going to be a longer flight, we know what's going to happen, and therefore we have to avoid sitting next to each other by purchasing an upgrade of first-class tickets when we're nida. Pamper yourself, and then you could sit next to each other. No, this is not halacha, this is just a dream. A dream. Or aisle seats can be a suggestion, or it can be sometimes, in the front row, there's the tables come like this, so you have that stiff barrier, and you just lean backwards, and usually there's a longer leg room, so you have to figure out how to navigate that. But you cannot touch each other through your clothing. That's a halacha. However you figure it out, figure it out. I know the Rabbanim in Eretz Yisrael say if you sit next to each other in a bus and they go up and down the mountains, what's going to happen? Okay, so then the shiloh would be, what's if there's no choice to sit next to a strange man or sit next to your husband, which is preferable? You ask a shiloh on that one. Who is more preferable to fall on top of, if there's no other choice? Okay? But we avoid it if we can. We're talking about, an umbrella, okay? Practically speaking, can you hold an umbrella one for another on a day like today? I know what it was like over here, but by us it was like pouring. Okay? Can you? No. So, if you have a huge canopy umbrella, and one of you holds it up like a flag, it can happen. But because that's not usually the way we do umbrellas, we avoid holding an umbrella one for another for this reason. But is it usher to hold an umbrella if you could manage? No. If you can manage not to touch, it's fine. But because it's going to happen, we don't do it. Unless we say we have this, special situation. We have to practice caution, and we should avoid peering at the same phone screen, or at the same computer screen, or at the same book. We used to say book first, but now, it took over. If it requires concentration, because if you're going to concentrate on reading together, you may not concentrate on not touching each other because you're in close proximity. Versus if you're very fluent, let's say Matzah Shabbos, you say V'yit L'mocha, you know it by heart, V'yit L'mocha, whatever, all the brachas. So if it doesn't require much concentration, and you could concentrate on not touching each other, then you can use the same siddur, because again, you can concentrate on one thing well, okay? So that should be your gauge. Another thing about touching, about clothing, if you're under a blanket, cozy blanket in your bed, you are called garbed in your blanket. And your husband may not touch your blanket either. So therefore, if this is your bed and your blanket and you're under here so cozy, and I don't know, do you have over here tiny bedrooms or just in Crown Heights? Just in Crown Heights? Yeah. So you don't have this. So by us, if you have to squeeze around to get to the closet, he can't touch this blanket. So you could lift it like this, whoops, okay? He can brush past the mattress because he's not moving or really, he's just brushing past it, that's okay. But it shouldn't be touching the blanket. And the same thing if he wants to hand you the baby, because the nursing baby wants to be a gentleman and bring you the baby in the middle of the night, he cannot place it on your blanket because he's handing it to you. We'll learn more about that later. You could move over the blanket, and where is he putting it on? On the sheet. Some say it's even better to do it with a shinoi, not just on the sheet, even with a shinoi, a little bit to the side, a little bit with the other hand. The baby will be safe. That's number one. So that's as far as touching each other, even through clothing. Now there's another part, so that's about touching. Shh, pardon? You should put it on the sheet, not on the blanket.
Right. But what do you mean with shinoi?
Oh, a little different. Again, maybe a little to the side with his left hand, not his right hand. There's a source for that. It's not a must, but there's a source for that, okay? Yes, all the above is reverse. I suggest, ladies, keep those question papers because you're probably going to have 25 questions by the time this hour is over. And if you have 25 papers, that's great. But if you want to list them all at once, that's probably going to be more conserving trees. Okay. We don't hold something movable together, okay? Because you cannot feel each other's energy. You're not going to spread the tablecloth, Shabbos tablecloth together. You're not going to open up this table to add a nut together, pulling each one on one side to add the leaf in the middle. You're not going to push the baby carriage together. You're not going to push that heavy shopping cart, Costco, whatever, together, because you cannot move something together. You can't feel each other's energy or movements. He cannot take a candle from your, they used to say a cigarette, right? But no smoking anymore. But he cannot take a candle of a flame that you're holding. I mean, everything goes both ways. In fact, you cannot warm yourself from the candle that he's holding either. You cannot fan each other. You cannot blow dust from each other's garments. He has dust on his hat. Okay? So that's about feeling each other's movements. Now we have about walking a baby together, okay? So we'll talk a little bit more about a baby. We're going to go back to the walking a baby together in a moment, infant, toddler. I want to first talk about something else, which is if everything again is he and she reversible. If I'm holding something, I'm holding this cup, holding a pushka, I'm holding a baby, that becomes me, okay? And when we learn the halacha, one cannot pass anything one to another. So if I'm holding something, he cannot put anything into what I'm holding either. Can't put stuff in the pushka I'm holding. He can't take something out of the purse I'm holding. He can't put the pacifier in the baby's mouth, okay? And he shouldn't even be playful with the baby. Like, you know, if he's gonna shake the baby's hand to go, ooh, ah, ah, I'm gonna feel that. He can't do that either. So a baby, he cannot put the pacifier in the baby's mouth or something like that. Now the question is, about once that baby becomes more self-supporting, you have a year-old child sitting on your lap, can he hand something to that baby? Because in fact, he's a totally separate, self-supported human being. At a certain age, you ask a shaila, at what age can there be leniencies and you can hand something to the child, or the child is grabbing the toy from the other, you know, because it's a separate person, if that's totally okay. Now, if you're walking a child together, if the child is totally self-supportive, each one can hold, you know, you can hold one hand and your husband can hold the other hand and the child is walking between you. You don't swing the child together. You have to also be careful that he shouldn't pull the child, and if he pulls the child and the child then is pulling, that's not okay at all. So if you do take a walk with this child together, you have to be very mindful that if, wait, it's red light, that energy cannot extend from you to the child to your husband, okay? Now, if the child cannot support themselves at all, you cannot each one hold and walk together at all, because that connection is not allowed. So that's about walking a child together. So handing something one to another, we said, is forbidden, even for the schos of being a kvater at a bris. That's the couple that brings the baby into the bris. If you're pregnant, of course, you decline the offer because it has to be a twosome, not a threesome. If you're nida, you still cannot hand the baby one to another. Whether you should decline or you should take it and not hand, your Rav should decide for you. There are different opinions on that one. We don't throw anything to each other either. So not just we hand, even throwing. Now the question, and even if you're throwing something up, that he should catch it. Now the question will arise if he's throwing something up, let's say the bundle of keys because he couldn't put it down for whatever reason, and what is drawing it down? Gravity. That could be okay if needed. Never with a baby, chas v'shalom, but on special occasions. There could be many other examples that we could give, but I will stop here because this could be endless. I'm sure in your own unique situations you have different things that arise. Now, we cannot feel each other. So touch is not just the physical touch. We said we cannot feel each other's energy, right? That would extend into you may not sit on a soft couch or a bed or a bench or anything that you would feel each other's energy. If it's something so hard that if one sits down, the other one doesn't feel it, that's okay. So when you buy a couch, you have to take somebody along with you, if you're nida, to figure it out. You could if you plop down on the couch, not just sit down like so carefully, you know what happens. You have to make sure that the other one doesn't feel it, not from the back, not from the front, wherever. So you plan a kosher couch. Now sometimes, if this is unavoidable, which could happen, and that's quite, there are allowances in some special situations if somebody sits between you. Somebody, of course, that's allowed to sit between you. And if you don't have a human being to sit between you, if you have an object between you, that sometimes can be used in an emergency situation when you have no other option. Okay? So obviously you're not going to swing together on that outdoor hammock or swing. Okay? We don't do it even with other people between us. What? It's not about how many pillows. is if you feel each other, because sometimes the pillows, you won't feel from the pillows. It depends. Like the leather couches, for example, they sink, so you won't feel from the back. But some of the upholstered couches, the springy ones, when you sit down, you can feel it from the back. So it's not how many couches and how many pieces or how big. It's really, bottom line, do you feel each other? Most of the time, the three-seaters are fine.
They soften over time.
Okay. So part of a continuation of this, which would be a different type of touch, you cannot sleep in the same bed when you're nida. You have to have two totally separate beds that are not connected at all, not through the same headboard, not through the furniture, two separate beds. The beds have to be apart enough that the people, the bedding, and the bed don't touch at all. The practice custom is a amma between the beds. A amma is like between 19 and 24 inches. That's the proper amount, because if you stick your hand out, you won't touch him. But again, even if it's a minimal separation that none of the above will touch, it's allowed. Sometimes you're put up as a guest in a smaller place than you're used to. Don't be concerned as long as there's no touching at all. Okay? I do want to mention that the Rebbe wrote someplace, it's printed in the Sefer as well, that it's customary, minig b'nei Yisrael Yerushalayim, the custom of Yidden who are Yerushalayim, that even when they're Tohar, their bedroom has two separate beds, separated by an object, for example, a night table between the beds. That's the way a Yerushalayim bedroom is. Okay? Again, not halacha, but minig b'nei Yisrael Yerushalayim. Now, he cannot sit on your bed when you're nida. He cannot lie on your bed when you're nida. There are some that may allow that if you're not in town, or that there may be an allowance for some of that, he can ask if necessary. You can sit on his bed when you're nida, even in his presence. Lying on his bed, you can not do in his presence, but you could do so if he's not around. Your bed could also be, let's say you're a guest in you always go to your parents' house and you always have this bed and he has that one, that becomes your bed. Whatever bed you decided is yours becomes yours during that time. If you're after a baby, your hospital bed becomes your bed. He cannot sit on that bed either. If it's a family bed or a couch, that doesn't apply. It means the bed that's called yours. And that's why if you want to switch beds, it'll be problematic when you're nida, because he may not be able to be in either one. So the proper time to switch is when you're tahar. Oh, so yes, okay. There's an opinion if you switch the beds, not the location. That means if you just move the entire bed, not just the location, that could be allowed. Ask a shayla about that as well. And an offshoot of that is that you shouldn't be sleeping in each other's linen either, according to many.
Meaning if you take the bed and actually switch.
Yes, you shouldn't sleep in each other's linens and blankets if they're unique, if this is his and this is yours. So the question is, how far does this go? Do you have this pinkish little, or does it mean when you take off the linen and change it, it's not that his is this one and yours is that one? You know, if you have unique, if he has the feather blanket and all, and so this is debatable as what means his linen. But there is a source about his linen, just like if it's halachically allowed to wear a garment of his, because some garments can be, in halacha, perhaps can be interchanged, certain types, not all. But if he's the one that's usually wearing it, you can't wear it, and neither should he wear yours. Okay? But that's a separate detail. We could go on forever with the details of the details. I want to tell you that 30 years ago we were so much simpler. It was like we didn't even dream up all these possibilities. But now it's a little more complex because we are more medayik in the details. Baruch Hashem, we're careful. Or maybe we have more things come up. I don't know. So that's about the beds. Now comes taking a walk together. Okay? So here again, it's a little broad. There are different ways of doing this, and you'll have to ask your Rav about it. Definitely, we cannot take a drive or a walk together for sure not in a scenic place, in a place of nature, if the purpose is just to have a great time in that beautiful scenic place. Okay, now, there's another way of saying this, that any ride, that the drive itself would be forbidden, even if it's not in a scenic place, unless you create a destination. You're going to visit a certain place. You're going to pick something up, to drop something off. But just to go for the ride itself, you don't just go for a drive together, even if it's not in a scenic place. Boating is always a question. I'm not even going to get into that. Now the question is, if you're not going yourself, what age children are disturbing your intimate feelings together, or what setting? So if you're going with family, it could be a different story. So these are questions that come up. Now I want to tell you something about vacations. When you're nida, of course, going to scenic places will be problematic. So you'll be visiting malls, besides the first class tickets, there'll be malls and museums and historic places. Those are all educational and purposeful, okay? But here became a new shtick that you really have to know to ask a shayla about. Dan's deal, 39 tickets to Florida, let's book the tickets. Perfect, it's vacation time for my work. Book the tickets. And when you come closer to this vacation, what's going on? Oh boy, your period's coming too. Wrong time. Oh, I'll be smart. Let me ask the doctor for a prescription to delay my period. And I'm not talking about hormones and if it's good for your health. That's a whole different story. But it became very popular. My vacation came out. I want to have a good time when I'm nida, and when I'm tar, excuse me. And not only that, halachically, it's going to be more kosher if I'm tar. You have to ask a shayla if you got to take those pills in the first place, because it is a type of birth control. Because you're delaying your period delays what? Your next ovulation. So it's not so simple from the halachic perspective. I'm not even talking about the health perspective. What? What?
People really do that?
Okay, I don't know who you are, but you don't know me well. I don't know how to make a joke even if I tried. It's a problem. I can only say the truth. I'm too honest sometimes. It's not good for relationships sometimes. I don't make up stories. I'm in the business and I will tell you.
If you're ever allowed to take birth control, like just because you want it for your own sake?
What? If you ever want to use the progesterone to delay your period? I don't know, maybe you're all too old. I'm hearing from my young colleagues, so I guess maybe it's like 10 years later, 100 years later, the new fad. Okay. But I just want to tell you that the same Eibishter is in Morristown and in vacation. There's no leniencies to tznius just because you are away from. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. What?
Can you just...
Can we write this down? Yeah, how about, okay? You can walk together for exercise. That's very purposeful, it's very healthy. You cannot take a nature walk together. You understand? Now the question is, if you're taking your kids on this nature hike for educational purposes, it's a totally different story. Okay? So that is about vacations and boating and rides and walks.
So you can do stuff about education and
Yes. So now the question, what? What?
you just said exercising itself is not enough.
It is enough, sure. Exercise is enough. If you're going to jog or to exercise, wherever you normally go, you're going for the purpose of exercising. Boating is always a shayla. Now, if you have to take the Staten Island ferry to get to work. Okay, you're not from Staten Island. I know there's something equivalent here. You're going to work. But even if other people are around, if you're going on a cruise, even if there's other people around, anything that takes place in a place of nature is always problematic. Now, this is very different if you're traveling from here to wherever, and you have to make a mincha stop, because everybody in the car may have to do a badika at that time, so you always make a mincha stop. You make a mincha stop and a rest stop, and it happens to be in a gorgeous place. Yes, you could eat your snack and enjoy the gorgeous scenery by the rest stop, because you're not going to that stop to see the scenery. You understand what I'm saying? It's a purpose that happens to be in a scenic place. So so that is a shayla. If you just have to take a walk with your husband because you're so a bundle up of nerves, and if you must go in a park, it's going to relax you. It's for your health. Ask a shayla. The same thing, can we go to a restaurant? Can we go to a hotel? Depends if it's normal for you. You always go every Sunday night. That's your routine. Or you never go, and now you're going. What? These are shaylas that come up, girls, okay? Now we're going to move on to smell. He may not smell perfume on you. Okay? And if it's your unique perfume, There are those that say that he may not even smell it in the bottle, even if it's not on you, because him smelling the perfume will remind him of you. You are allowed to smell his cologne. It's very different, women to man, than man to woman. Now, let me just explain something about perfume. The halacha of perfume was written pre-deodorant days, which means every woman, if she wasn't using some perfume, she was smelling of other stuff. So just to feel human, she had to put something on herself. That's one amount of perfume for her own personal hygiene and feel good. And then there's perfume that spreads around. So for sure the perfume that spreads around is usher. A minimal perfume for her to feel good, basically there's no other way. You understand? She had to balance her, whatever. Now, so even though now we do have deodorant, so that issue is, Baruch Hashem, not an issue. But still, so you have to be careful. It doesn't say a woman shouldn't wear perfume when she's nida. It says a woman should minimize the amount of perfume she's wearing, and that really depends on the sensitivity of what? Your husband's nose. That's it. So you could practice and try. Or you could, after he leaves, you put on your perfume, and by the time he comes home, by the time he comes from work, it's already gone. I remember when I was in high school, and it always puzzled me until I became a college. I used to come to the weddings, and then this troop of women, these old women, my age women, but these old women, now I'm that age, would go into the bathroom and spritz perfume. And I'm thinking, why can't they just do it at home when they put on the makeup? But we were taught in those days, you go to a wedding, drop off your husband, put on your perfume, and when he picks you up after the wedding, the perfume already dissipated. What? You still feel good. But what I'm trying to say is that that's between you and your husband. Now, if you're holding besamim, he shouldn't smell the besamim that you're holding for the havdalah. Okay? If you're holding a flower, he shouldn't smell the flower, or vice versa. This goes both ways, because it's not just about the smell, it's not just about perfume, it's because you may very likely come to touch your nose. So you don't do that either. Now the havdalah licht, I prepared a bag of props, but it's sitting on my dining room table. I have the havdalah, the besamim, I was collecting, and my son said, what's going on here? What do you have to make havdalah? I said, I have to give a shear, I need all this stuff. But anyways, a dolly, everything, the baby, but we're doing it without the props. So this is the havdalah licht, okay? I'm the husband. I'm the wife, I'm holding the havdalah licht. Could you want to be the husband for a second? Thank you. So, can you, husband, go like this?
No.
Yes.
What?
You are allowed to go like this, because are you touching this fire?
No.
Are you coming close to touching this fire?
Well, I'm using the light.
That's okay. That's okay. You're not warming. You're not warming your hands. You're just looking with the light. Now, you're the husband. Now, what's going to happen now? You finished making havdalah.
Right.
What do I do next? Can I hold this fire for you to pour the wine over? No. So what do I do? So either you could pour some wine on the plate, and then I'll dip it in there, or you could put your becher down, and me, the wife, can pour the wine over it. Or if this is not a flammable plate, you could actually just put it down. Not a styrofoam plate.
They make these amazing Havdalah candles. My sister and all.
Holders.
They just stand. No. The Havdalah candles
Yeah?
just stand on their own.
I would be petrified. But we have a Havdalah stand either way. Okay? So that's as far as the Havdalah is concerned. So that's about the smell. Singing, sound. You are not allowed to, okay, you're allowed to sing. He cannot hear you sing. Even if you feel like you sound like a frog. He cannot hear you chant and sing and da-da-da-da-da. Even the cute little Parsha songs of the children. So you have to be careful with that. And you'll learn when is the right time to sing with your kids. You'll know when he's not around. And if you're a very musical type, you're going to have to practice a little restraint, because you'll find yourself humming while you wash the dishes, and he's like, he's trying to say that he can't hear. Now, what if there's a baby that you want to sing to sleep? That's a very nice, lullabies. It's a Yiddish mama. That's how we put our kids to sleep. He shouldn't be in the room. He could be singing his heart out, his Torah words, or something else, and you could be in the room putting the kids to sleep.
But he can hear you.
He should not hear you, but he could drown out your sound. There's sound, no? No, he could sing louder, he could turn on the music, whatever. You could still sing to your kids. You could make it in a way that it's not in his ear. I was going to say not in his face, but I meant like not in his ears, but you know what I mean. But there are leniencies, girls, that if it's impossible any other way, the baby's screeching away, and the only way the baby can calm down is by singing, there are leniencies if you have no other choice. I just want to tell you, you can discuss with your Rav about that, to what extent to go, okay? But there is a leniency for that. Again, not a lechatchila, but if it's, very difficult. You could listen to him sing. He cannot even hear your voice among a group, like a family singing together. I do also want to mention that if he's davening, he can't daven, like say Shema or whatever, if a woman singing voice either way, even if you're tahira. He shouldn't be singing, you shouldn't be singing if he's davening. Okay?
Did you say you can't hear you as a group?
When you're nida. Even in a group, even with your family, you shouldn't. This is what I just read in the Sefer, but you could check it up. Okay, check these up. I want to tell you something. When you get used to asking these kind of questions, they're technical. You'll get more comfortable asking the more interesting kind of questions, more personal kind of questions. They're saying and they're singing. You'll figure it out. But again, he could busy himself. Or actually, tatis could also sing Shema with kids, by the way. They could do a very good job. So they could be helpful. How could you help me? Taras Mishpacha, I need your help. Could you please put the kids to bed? I need you to sing Shema Yisrael, because we have such a small apartment, and I can't sing Shema Yisrael, and you'll have to put the kids to bed, please. Thank you very much. Okay, now the sense of sight. You got to be totally tznius in his presence. And like it says in the Sefer, he cannot see anything that needs to be covered, be it your hair or anywhere else. It says, not even her heel. Not even her heel. He can't see anything, not even from your heel to your toes. 0 when you're nida. I just want to mention something else. Even when you're tahira, we're totally tznius, because in Hashem's presence. Where's Hashem present? Everywhere, all the time. Except for certain situations, for purposeful situations, we could be undressed, for bathing, for showering, or other stuff, we're less dressed. But if there's not a purpose of it, we are totally dressed, and according to the Alter Rebbe, we also cover our feet. And other people can have paskin differently about below the knees, but for the Alter Rebbe, shaik includes the lower leg as well. Leg till your ankle. Now, when you're nida, even from your ankle to your toes have to be covered. We cover everything, even to the toes, in the presence of the Eibishter. There are leniencies, perhaps, in your bedroom, in a totally private place, from the bedroom to the bathroom. Do you have to put on your socks? Things like that. Everybody, you'll ask your mashpia Rav how far to go in your specific situation. But walking around the house, we go, this is the level of kimchis. It wasn't just about our hair. We're always tznius in the presence of the Eibishter, and the Rebbe mentions how it's a skula that the children should stay from. I have a handwritten answer from the Rebbe on that. Yes, everything around the house, nida or tahira. But again, please ask your mashpia. I don't want nobody to jump here to, everyone's growing in their own way. We have to be very careful over here. I'm here to bring awareness and what to choose first, second, or third, right, to enhance a mitzvah. Please be careful. Practice care and caution. Okay? When you nurse a baby, for us, like breastfeeding, it's beautiful. Hashem gave me the greatest gift. I was able to breastfeed. It's such a beautiful gift Abishah gave. But we still have to be tznius when we're nida, for sure. Just because for us it's like just breastfeeding, but it is erva, and we have to do it in a tzniistic fashion in the presence of our husbands. Okay? You could tell him not to look. He could talk to you with his ears. But they have now nursing bibs and all kinds of stuff that can make it easier, okay? So even if you're breastfeeding, if you're changing, you have to be careful. In his presence, you have to be careful. He shouldn't see you. Again, now what about pajamas at night, okay? You have to have sleepwear that's tznius as well. So what does that mean? So you have to have your neck covered. You have to have your elbows covered. Now what about pajamas? So if you're just wearing a nightgown without any pants, and by the time you wake up in the morning, the nightgown is up there and your legs are spread out like that, that's no good. Then you have to put pants, whether you like it or not, because he cannot see your body. Now the question is about pajamas. Okay, so let me tell you that among Chabad Rabbanim, there are two opinions. I'm telling you information, no one should do less than they're doing until now, but at least we want to be within halacha. The higher standard is definitely that we're nida. If we wear pajamas, the shirt should come below the knees, just like if you are next to a strange man, other man. Okay, that has to go below the knees because the split, your legs, the split of the legs cannot be seen by another man. It shouldn't be seen by your husband as well, till below the knee. There are those that are lenient, that only between husband and wife, not between a woman and other men. Even if you're nida, you can wear pajamas. The shirt does not need to go past your knees, as long as the pants are not, you don't see the form of the shape of the leg. They're looser pants. Not just not leggings, but it shouldn't be noticeable where your legs begin and end. So if they're looser pants, it will be acceptable even when you're nida and the shirt doesn't go till past your knees. There are Chabad Rabbanim that approve of that as well. Okay? So we have kosher pajama pants. Now, you have to be careful though. You don't have to sleep with socks, because normally, if your husband wants to look at you in the middle of the night, is he peeping at your toes? So, but when you walk around, your feet have to be covered. You can have a long robe or nightgown and then have fluffy slippers or whatever, but your feet have to be covered when you're walking around. But you don't have to sleep with socks. Again, pants might be something you have to sleep with if you land on top of the covers in a non-tznius fashion. So that is about tznius, and of course, hair covering, we're not going to discuss that, but hair covering is included. I do want to say that according to the Tzemach Tzedek, all the hair has to be covered all the time, and there's an exception. That means it doesn't matter if you're at home or in your bedroom. Again, except when needed. That's a separate discussion. The exception is that if it's only your husband and nobody else, even if you're nida, he's allowed to see your payas. Now tell me, payas means the sides of the ears. Is this payas? No. Is this payas? This is payas, okay? So if the tichel goes a little higher and this sticks out, and it's only your husband, that is acceptable according to the Tzemach Tzedek, even if you're nida. But if other men are around, even that must be covered. We are very strict with total, complete hair covering inside the house, outside the house, all the time. That's how we paskin. We're finally getting to eat. Who's hungry around here? Not me. So are we done? I think we're going to be done after the eating, and then we'll take the questions. And we also want to have time for hashkafa, so maybe I should hurry up. We'll make a fast meal. You want me to discuss hair covering? So write in a question, discuss hair covering. But once I start, I'm never going to stop. So that's the first question. We're going to land there. Maybe we'll come another time and just discuss hair covering, because that's a whole separate topic. And we have to know as women and as Chabad women, what is it about hair covering and the different levels and the different things from our Rabbeim, and it'll definitely encourage us to do this b'simcha. I wish I had this perfect sheitel, that stays beautiful forever. Just put it on and just is beautiful, always, never has to. Comfortable and beautiful, okay. So on my wish list. So we're eating. No. Mashiach first and everything else will be solved. Okay, listen girls. Now we're eating together. So, Torah says, eating together brings a closeness. We know when the Chachamim wanted to undo intermarriage, because the Goyim and the Yidden were being a bit friendly, what did they institute? Right. Don't eat with the Goyim. Okay, so eating together already brings a closeness. So, when you sit down to eat together at the same table, step one, you have to put down a reminder, which is called a siman heker, a reminder, to remind you, A, not to get too emotionally close, and B, not to share the food from each other's plate. So that's if you're sitting together to eat at the same table. So if one of you is eating and the other one is not eating, you don't have to put a siman heker. It's if both of you are eating. Now it doesn't matter if it's a 7-course dinner or a little snack. If both of you are eating at the same time from the same at the same table, that's what you need. Now let's say you have 2 tables. You have a long Shabbos table and there are 2 tables attached. If they're covered with one tablecloth, what's that considered? But if it's clearly 2 separate tables, you have a folding table and a table, you have 2 separate tables, you don't need a siman heker. Now, we use a siman heker even if other people are around. Now, b'di'evet, that means let's say you put down a siman heker and it disappeared. So there are leniencies if you're sitting in a position that there's somebody sitting between you, not a baby, like somebody that would interfere with that emotional closeness type of thing. And there's no way you could reach into each other's plate. You're not going to do that. You're not going to go, you know? Then if the siman heker disappeared, you could continue eating. But if you're sitting next to each other, even if other people are around, then you would have to replace that siman heker before you continue eating together. Now, what can be used as a siman heker? There are three categories of choices. One is an object that's not normally on the table or not normally in that position at the table. That means even if you'll be using the object, okay, that's okay, but it's unique because it's never at that place between you except when you're nidos. For example, see? I don't know if this is big enough, but let's say, because there's a debate if this object has to be of a certain height. Does it have to be a few inches high? Or the height doesn't matter as long as it's unique and noticeable. Meaning this little fork is not unique. These papers, no. Okay? So this, of course, the extra cup is an object that could be used. This would be, what's this here for? It's being recorded?
Our local is listening in.
Oh, okay, sure.
Is that okay?
Sure, not a problem. Okay. It's fine. Okay. No, I'll tell you what the deal is, because this, if there's a mistake, I don't know, maybe I said something wrong, chas v'sholem, so it could be corrected, it could be announced maybe by all the people who are watching. So it will be your responsibility that if there's some correction. Oh. So it's not recorded. Okay, fine. Beautiful. Okay, as if you're here right now. Okay, so if there's any correction to be announced, all of you will get the announcement, including this person sitting on the phone, because there's something that always, like, I'm always like panicking about that if I said something wrong. So stop me. I could have said something wrong. Stop me. I'm sure a lot of you are knowledgeable in these halachos. So listen, if the napkin holder is usually anywhere on the table, and now I put it, again, it has to be between our line of vision. It's not just like anywhere. The siman heker has to be between our line of vision, and now usually it's anywhere, and now I put it between us, okay? So even if I'm going to use the napkins, this napkin holder will remain between us. It's a siman heker. That's number one, an object of noticeable height that we put between us that's never there when I'm tahira. Number two, food that will not be eaten during this meal. Again, the question is, how much of food does it have to be? Let's say for Shabbos, if you put the extra challah of lechem mishnah, that's always okay. The question is if a slice of challah is also okay that you make up between us, that we won't be eating this. So I know Rabbi Heller told me to teach this when I was teaching my colleagues. They're being invited to their shviger's house. Like, what should I tell them to do? He said, and they don't necessarily provide the lechem mishnah. And then sometimes the daughters are always clearing the table. They want to have a neat table and like leave everything, but So that extra piece of challah was his suggestion. Slice a nice slice, and between you know that you're eating it like after desserts kind of thing, which will remain uneaten. Or any other food that you could put between you. So when you're alone in the house, it really doesn't matter, because you could choose any object, you could choose any food. There's indefinite objects that you could elevate from being just a cup to siman heker now. Whew. Now totally. And then you have a third option, which is to use separate placemats if you don't normally do so, or you eat on separate tablecloths, or one folds over the tablecloth and the other one eats on just one layer of a tablecloth. Or you could have a disposable placemat, namely a napkin. It has to be visible like a placemat. And one more thing I want to say. If you don't normally use those chargers, and when you're nida, you put chargers, so that extra big plate is like your around placemat. It doesn't have to be square. It could be everyone, including you, but you never do it when you're tahar, only when you're nida. So for you it's different. You can put it. If you always use placemats, it doesn't count. You can't have nida placemats red. During the 7 clean days white, you can't do that. Either you use placemats or you don't use placemats. Okay, it has to be unusual for you. So in your own house, you have endless possibilities. If you're a guest in someone's house, you have to, like during the week, you could just put your purse down. You could if you have a huge bundle of keys, that will be okay. The car keys and the house keys and all the other keychains that landed around that keychain, because you're collecting your kids' souvenirs, let's say. But one little key doesn't do the job. It's too small. It's not something that's unusual. If you have a shaila, if something should be a siman heker, you can ask your Rav about certain specific items. Okay, so you put down, Baruch Hashem, you put something down, you can finally start eating. So what are the rules about eating? The rules, you cannot eat from the same plate, from the same dish, from the same bag of potato chips, low-fat, soy, sweet potato chips, and all that. Even if other people are also eating in between, that means, it's like a nosh plate, and everyone's eating popcorn from this bowl, so other people are also eating from it. It's not just me and my husband. You cannot both take food from the same plate, even if others are eating as well. Now, if you want to keep it simple, like in the olden days, how we were taught, everybody takes their own plate. Like, keep it simple, no shaylas and weiter gefart. But now, it's got to be complicated. So, the truth is, if one of you takes from the bowl, and the other one is putting in their own plate, okay, now, what you should not do is take one popcorn, put it down into your mouth. One popcorn, no. You got to take like a portion. You have to individualize the portion. Otherwise, in effect, that extra little pop down really doesn't do much to undo this situation, okay? You take the portion, you put it in your own napkin, you put it in your own plate, now you individualize it, you're not eating from the same plate. Now, if the hostess was kind enough and she prepared like everything in like separate cupcake holders, you see, they're already pre-individualized, okay? Versus if there's a bunch of cookies there, then every cookie has to first be individualized before it's put into the plate. You can't eat from the same plate, okay? Now let's take this a step further. If there's a loaf of bread, okay, so each one will take a slice of bread, it's best to first put it, you don't always keep bread on a plate, it depends on the families, but you should first individualize it, you understand? You put it down and then you start eating, meaning this became mine. We're not both taking straight from the bag into our mouth. So, and the like. Now comes the next part, which is as follows. We're not sharing anymore. I'm done with it. I'm done with it, okay? So I prepared a huge salad. I started eating from the salad, and I'm done. Can I just say, fine, we're not sharing anymore. Here, take it, and please eat the rest. So here, the husband and the wife will have differences, okay? A wife may always eat her husband's leftovers, and her children's leftovers, and whoever's leftovers, straight from the plate. And we just grow fatter and fatter. What? Even in his presence. You could eat straight from his plate, straight from if he's done with it, straight from his cup, the rest of his yogurt, straight. Now the truth of the matter is, you have to understand that eating someone's leftovers does show a closeness. Would you eat my leftovers? And I feel very close to you, but I just want to show you that halacha, there's a reason for this. You understand? What? I'm not insulted, no. I'm just kind of real.
Does it matter how you were raised, like if you were raised in England versus California?
I have no idea. I'm saying what the Torah mentality is, Torah value is, eating the same food together shows a closeness, okay? So what do we do? But for the husband to eat from your leftovers, it requires one step more. Now, if somebody else ate in between, is it your leftovers anymore? So that's fine. If he transferred the plate, it's fine, which means he cannot eat your leftovers from the same container or plate that you ate from. But as soon as that food or drink he took and put it in his own plate or in another plate, it makes it kosher for him. So transfer the keli is as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's not a big deal. It sounds more complicated than it really is, okay? Now here's the thing. Another thing is if you left the room, some will say that's okay. That means he shouldn't eat your leftovers only in your presence. So if you left, he'll eat it and until you come back. If the cup wasn't rinsed out or the plate wasn't cleaned, he could refill it. That means he's allowed to take your germs. It's not considered leftovers, okay? Now, and if he doesn't know that it's your leftovers, you don't have to tell him, hey, that's the blueberry yogurt, that's mine. You keep track what's in the fridge. He has no clue, let him enjoy. Oh, no. That would make a too complicated fridge. I know what's in my fridge because my fridge is broken since Shabbos. And it's a little challenging. Anyways, without the labels, but okay. Anyways, getting back to the matter at hand. Now, if So you don't have to tell him it's your leftovers, okay? So that's about leftovers. What do you mean he doesn't have to ask?
No, this is a plate he doesn't have to. Is that your plate?
Oh, that I don't know if he has to ask. I mean, I don't know if husbands would even know to ask. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know that answer. It's his, don't worry about him. He could ask that shayla, okay? We'll do what we need to do. Okay, now we're done with the leftovers. So I want to tell you something. Let's do this way. You're in the car. You stop to get a drink, okay? If he starts the drink, the healthy drink, and he's done, can you finish it straight from the? Yeah. But if you start the drink, can he eat straight from that? No. Okay? So that's how it gets practical. Right. But if you leave the car, he could drink because he's really thirsty. Oh, you don't have a cup in the car. Well, I guess your car is full of stuff. You have cups, you have garbage, you have everything. Okay, let's move on. We got to finish with the food. Now comes a whole different parsha, which is serving. So there's pouring and there's serving, and then there's passing wine and special drinks. So we have to concentrate on this. So start with the easy stuff. You don't put his personal, first of all, it feels good to be served. And it also feels good to serve someone. Do you like to put a personal, you're a hostess and you put the plate in front of somebody, feels good? And being on the receiving end also feels good. So we don't put down the personal portion in front of each other. We do it with a shinui, meaning a little different. Either with the other hand, being careful not to spill the food, or you have to put it, girls, or you put it a little bit to the side, and what does the husband do? He just pulls it towards himself. Now, let's say everybody already has a plate. You see? Everybody has their plate, and you're bringing the kugel. This is the plate of kugel. It's okay? And you're putting kugel, 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 kugel. This is your husband's plate. Can you put the kugel right here?
With your left.
Either with your left hand, if you could manage that. If he pushes the plate, you put the kugel, and then he pulls it to himself. That makes it okay. Okay? So we don't place in front of each other the personal portion, but the general salad bowl, that's fine. I want to say sharing from the same plate includes a dip, like putting the carrots in the same dip and the like, okay? So that's serving. Now we have what's called mezigas hakos. Now how that's translated halachically, there are two versions. One, it means simply pouring a drink. One may not pour a drink in each other bifanov, when the other one is watching. That excludes water. You could always pour water in front of each other. You could always in fact, place water in front of each other. Now the question is if tea or coffee is considered water or something special. And the answer is, if it's a finished tea or coffee, that's already something special. Like even make havdalah on tea. So then you will not pour him a tea in bifanov when he's watching, and you won't either place the tea directly in front of him. So that's one interpretation, which means pouring a drink. You don't pour in each other's presence. You pour when he's not watching or in the other room. That's one part. And once it's poured in the correct fashion, you also have to place it in the correct fashion, meaning this isn't water. This is not Smirnoff. This is I don't know what. And you cannot put it directly in front of him. You put it, like I said, to the side, and he pulls it towards himself. The other interpretation of this mezigas hakos, that's Rebbe Farkash has that in the Sefer, is it's not actually the pouring, it's mixing a drink together, preparing a coffee, like putting the mixture together shouldn't be done in his presence. Some interpret it that way. So that's something that you could ask your rabbi as to which way to go. Okay? But if you whatever you're doing till now, for sure there's one opinion that says. So no, according to the second opinion, you can never make him, you should never finish a drink for him. He has to add the final idea. That means if you want to mix a drink for him, even not in his presence, you shouldn't do. He should do the final touch. The milk, the creamer, the sugar.
What if you're making a smoothie? Can you make enough for both of you, but not pour it into a cup?
Right. And then each one, oh, you mean because you're preparing for the family, you're not preparing uniquely for him. You're preparing and he's taking. Right. It's a good question. I don't know. I would assume it's okay, but don't ask me. Okay. So there's those that are no, I said there's those that are machmir that this mezigas hakais. Look in Rabbi Farkas should say for Tarek halacha. I just had this today with you, Rabbanim, a whole back and forth because it for me got me a little mixed up. So if you're mixed up, I feel so validated. So you figure out with your rabbi how this works out in your situation. Okay? So I'm glad. It used to be simple, pouring a drink. That's how I used to teach. That's how I learned. Actually, I confirmed it with my father. But now this mixing of the drink is also an interpretation. So how your Rav says, that's what you do.
I just do what my Kana teacher told me.
Next, girls, next. One more thing. Sending wine. A husband may never send his wife wine or any other drink other than water. He cannot even order for her a drink in a restaurant. You should make your own order for that. He cannot send you the wine. He cannot ask somebody to bring you the wine. So how does this apply for Kiddush? When your husband is making Kiddush, he's pouring his kais and he knows you're going to drink from it. But that's totally allowed because this is his kais is going to be filled whether you're there or not. Understand? So he could pour even if it's right in front of you. He makes Kiddush. When he's done, there's a few ways to do this. He could drink and then put it down. Can he move it towards you? No. Can he ask someone to bring it to you? No. He puts it down, and what do? Either you take it or you ask someone to bring it to you. You could get it, but he cannot send it. Now, once you drank from it, if you're the only one drinking from it, what does this become now? Your leftovers. He cannot drink from it unless someone drinks in between, or he transfers the cup, or if you left the room and he takes a sip. But once somebody else already drank from it, then it does not your leftovers anymore. Another way, pardon?
You're allowed to drink from his Kiddush cup? I was told you're supposed to pour it into your own cup.
You're allowed to drink from his leftovers. Now, another way to do it is, girls, listen, if there's a few of you at the table, that means 3 or more, and he pours a bunch of little cups, and then they get passed down. So not one of them, he doesn't know which one will land by you. He's just doing it for everybody around. 3 or more, you know that Kiddush fountain? That's for this purpose. So he could pass, and they get passed down. Okay? So those are 2 common ways how Kiddush is done. Now, if he did send you the Kiddush, you're not allowed to drink this. Okay? So you could pretend because you don't want to embarrass him, but you're not allowed to drink wine that was sent to you. This is very strict. The other stuff, this doesn't apply, but this is the most strict part. You don't have to drink wine to be Yotze Kiddush. We drink wine because HaVeses a mitzvah. To be Yotze Kiddush, you really don't need the wine. What do you need to be Yotze Kiddush? Something totally different. Makam Suda, you need Zaynis, Amaitzi, or another revius of wine. So, anyway, it doesn't have to be maybe on his plate. He can put it on the table. He puts it down, wherever, and you come get it. Okay, or ask someone to bring it to you. Okay, next, that will be, again, this could be endless with all the details, and then it could get a little bit overwhelming. So there's another 2, we talked about pouring a drink. There's another 2 acts of service that a wife does for a husband or vice versa, that is acts of nice things that you do for each other. So one was serving each other, like placing food in front of each other. The second was preparing water for him to wash his face, hands, or feet. So you don't run him a bath, you don't open up the faucet for him, he opens it himself. In the olden days it was different because he came from work in the field, and the woman was so nice, she schlepped the water from the well and heated it up, and when he came home with schwitzy toes, he refreshed himself. It was like a beautiful thing. So what's the question nowadays that's more practical? And that is ma'am achronim and negelwasser. Okay, so those are that say that for a mitzvah that doesn't apply at all. There's those that say you should do it with ma'am achronim, you put with a shinoi. Again, this is if you're bringing it for him. If you're bringing it for the table, you're bringing it for the table. If you're bringing it for him, you're done with the shinoi. And negelwasser, there are those that say that if he's not present, you could bring each other's negelwasser because it's only forbidden if it's in his presence, not in his presence. And there's those that say, no, you should not bring for each other's negelwasser. It's better if you put negelwasser that's neutral. Like you could put 2 down, not the pink is for her and the blue is for him, They're both neutral and each one uses anyone. In such a position would be fine. Again, you could always rely on those that say that for a mitzvah it's fine. Like if there was no negavasser and you have to bring in negavasser, because we're careful with negavasser, you could rely on those that say you can because it's for a mitzvah, it's not for pleasure. You could use the same negavasser, why not? You're not bringing for him, you're bringing negavasser, and whoever uses it will use it at the appropriate time. Now comes another detail, which is you don't make a bed for each other. And what does that mean, you don't make each other's beds in each other's presence? You could do so when they're not around. The question is if he could turn his face or not, those are details. So here it is. There are those that say, so for sure this does not apply to changing linen. To stuff and to unstuff is nothing endearing, it's just hard work, it's called housekeeping, and that's totally mutter. The question will be, does this only apply when you set up the bed at night? Because in those days they had one-room houses and you schlepped out the mattresses and you fluffed them up. There's those that say that this only applies if you do this like before bedtime, but the standard opinion is that even if you make it in the morning, it's kind of preparing it to have a nice bed to crawl in at the end of the day. You shouldn't do it in each other's presence, but if you learn something different, you ask a shayla about that. Now, words, one second, could you write it down because we have a lot of work to do. I was going to do hashkafa and there's questions and I have to get back home, so I don't know how I'm going to do this. We'll just do a little more. So words of endearment is also something that we're careful with, and everybody has their own language. Definitely you compliment each other, but if you compliment the action rather than the person, you're usually okay. If you compliment the action rather than the person, the wording usually turns out fine. Some, what words are endearing, you'll figure out between yourselves. You're not newlyweds. I don't think any of you sitting here in the room, you probably already know the vocabulary. Now, you don't discuss with each other when you're nida anything that will lead to a discussion of physical intimacy. Okay? You could learn together. It's important to learn together Torah. You could learn all the din of Taras Mishpacha together when you're nida. But you don't learn the halachos of intimacy or hashkafa of intimacy itself. Okay? Gift giving could be problematic for the husband giving the wife a gift. It depends the connotation of the gift. And as women, we should know that it just sometimes makes more sense to wait till your Torah. The presentation of the gift and the thank yous could be done in a more endearing way than keeping it a little stiff. He can't even compliment on how gorgeous it looks on you. You know what I mean? So if he always buys flowers for Shabbos, he's doing Uchavat Shabbos. So the other gifts can be questionable. So this is something to ask a shayla. Also, I want to say one more thing, which is just you can't be playful or like act in a lightheaded manner that could lead to frivolous behaviors between each other. So therefore, there are some that say when you choose to play games with each other, mind games are always okay. But playful games, again, you have to see where that leads and how that works out between you if you're kind of these fun-loving, risk-taking, playful kind of people. There is a border that you can't cross, and what that border is, you'll have to figure that out. I think I will just want to mention one piece of hashkafa. One second. Okay, I'm going to try to get these questions. It's quite a pile. I want to apologize. I feel terrible last time because I was speeding through the questions because of the time restraint, and I thought maybe I didn't give you respect. Whoever writes a question deserves the proper respect and thought. And I felt I was flippantly zipping through them without respecting the person who wrote them. So I want to ask Mechila if I, chas v'shalom, hurt anybody in that process. But I can't get through this whole pile unless we stay here till tomorrow. So whatever I get to, I get to. And whatever I don't get to, it's good exercise for you to ask a shayla Yerav, because none of these questions are embarrassing to ask. And it'll give you a good practice how to develop a relationship with a Rav by asking these type of questions. And once you get comfortable, then you'll be more comfortable with more kinuach questions and things like that. Do you remember what that is? I'm giving you a test from last lesson, testing your memory. Okay, so I just want to say hashkafakli, what the Rebbe said, because there is, by some people, they start thinking logically, and they say, some of these dinei harchaka really don't apply. Why should they apply? Because there's nothing endearing about them. Nothing's going to happen between us if we do A, B, C, or D. We're above it. We control ourselves. My husband doesn't care about these things, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want, besides what we spoke about earlier, that in a relationship, We remember that the Eibusher is the first and the ultimate partner around here. And when we got married under the chuppah, which is called Kiddushin, we invited the Eibusher to be that third partner, which the third makes peace between the two. It's not third on the list, but only the third can make peace between the two. And he's the source of all blessings. And in a healthy relationship, we try to please each other even if we don't get it. You know what we do for people that we're in a good relationship with? I'm telling you, anything that will make the other one happy, if they're important to us, we try our best. So the same thing, these dinim, regardless of how you feel between it as a couple, the bottom line is, Taras Mishpacha is a chayk. We don't get it fully, for sure not. Even with all the fancy explanations, we do it because the Eibusher likes it that way. And in fact, in moral society, we could understand that, because if somebody comes to me, let's say a male, and touches me, when would that touch be okay and when it would be not okay? How would that be defined? Okay, and what will be, yes, and what will be the defining factor? It's called, in two words, mutual consent. If you're both okay with it, then great. But if either of you does not want to be touched, like, excuse me, it's my body, what business do you have? Now it's harassment and it's assault and who knows what. So if we use that moral society mashal, kal v'chaymer v'kal v'chaymer, when we understand that the Eibusher is part of this relationship, okay? And if he's not okay with that touch, mind you, guess what? It's incorrect, because we're in a relationship with the Eibusher. So when we feel lax with the Dini Harchaka, number one, we should upgrade our relationship with the Eibusher, because the only way we could actually fulfill doing all the bedikas, doing all the Dini Harchaka, doing everything correctly, is we realize that it's not about, of course it's about the children that we create from this, but not everybody's creating children all the time. Some of us are past that, or it's not happening now, etc. It's more than shalom bayis. For some people, it's very difficult, and there could be a stressful situation that has to be worked out. And when you're talking about financial matters, and when you're nida and you can't get the hug, and I don't know, some people finances or maybe it's a breeze, but there's some hot topics, you know. It could be difficult for some people, you understand? And if, you know. So not always do you say, wow, this is beautiful, shalom bayis. You know, sometimes you could question this. But if we remember that we keep this mitzvah because why? The Eibusher's in the details. He likes it that way. You say, Eibusher, this is for you. I'm doing this for you, and now Eibusher. Okay? That's how it is. Okay? And he has all those brachas, and we should ask for them, and we should ask that we should actually see those brachas. So that's one thing I want to share with you as far as valuing the details when it could become difficult in every chapter of Taras Mishpacha. But another thing I want to stress to you is that when the Eibusher gave us this Dini Harchaka, Hashem created man and Hashem created woman. And Hashem created the sensitivity that men and women can have between each other. And if the Eibusher says this is something that could create a feeling of a closeness, then it should. So if somebody is saying, well, between us, it doesn't create a closeness, it's like saying, I'm in the rose garden and I don't smell the roses. Are you going to say, wow, that's amazing, how lucky you are? Or are you going to say, what a pity, because Hashem gave us such beauty to be able to experience such a deep level of pleasure in sensing those roses, and chaval that you're missing out on the beauty of Gashmias. The same thing, the sensitivity of the chemistry, the romance, all the fancy words that you want to say, believe me, by Hasidim who keep this 100%, we have the most romantic physical expression and sensual pleasure because we're sensitive to every little nuance and every little detail, and it doesn't start and end in the bedroom. When you come home from the mikvah and you hand him something, what happens? There's something there, you understand? And when you put that plate in front of him, you could cherish those amazing connections, and whatever you want to call them in the vocabulary, thesaurus languages. It's a gift that the Eibusher gave us that we should preserve and cherish. And part of that exercise is being careful with these dinim, because we could regain sensitivity to the finest, you know, details. You know, it's like the connoisseur, the food taster who knows the difference between, wow, such a geschmack of wine. I mean, I'm not saying in a megushim dika way, but we could gain a sensitivity of, we don't have to, it goes all in a picture, because if we retain our sensitivity, then when it comes to intimacy, we could express our love in very edel ways. Versus if we lose that sensitivity, we have to compensate and express our love physically in much less than edel ways. And that's the result. So it's a total picture. If we want to have that edelkeit and that pnimius in a relationship, it goes hand in hand. If we cut from this corner, it ends up being cut on the other corner, like in the words of the Rebbe, if we're close when we should be distant, we'll end up being distant when we should be close. And to compensate for that distance, other behaviors are then introduced. Now, we're only talking about things that are mutter, not chas v'shalom that are aser, but they're not necessarily edel. And for us chassidim, edelkeit in the bedroom is a big thing. Like it says in Perek Beis in Tanya, not just Perek 100 and Beis, but Perek Beis right in the beginning. I don't know if any of you understood the chitas of today or yesterday or tomorrow. I tried once with Manas Fried, and I still don't get all those Rosh Tevis. But Perek Beis Tanya is right in the beginning. At the end of Perek Beis, read it what it says, that the way we behave in the edelkeit in the bedroom creates edel children. So this is the biggest gift you could give a child, is a head start in refinement. So we could talk much more about the time. And another third point I want to mention very quickly, it's when you're nida, it's not off. When I'm nida, I'm off. When I'm tar on, I get this. No, when you're nida, you're working on one aspect of the relationship, and you build up. It's so much easier and quicker, to, if you want to express to your husband, you could a hug. It's quick, it's easy, doesn't cost any money, it feels good. And now you have to put thought into it. I can't touch him. How am I going to show him appreciation, my care, my concern, respect, nurturing, validating his feelings, empathy, all the I do exercise with my students from A to Z, all these kind of emotional building blocks of a relationship that you're working on when you're nida. And when you have to think about how to do it, say, with words or with the action, that extra thought produces more depth in the relationship. And when you work on building the emotional aspect of the intimacy, when you come home from the mikvah, it's not the touch that creates the closeness, it's the touch, the closeness is expressed with touch and further. It's like the real kiss. Like I would say, do you want to give me a kiss? Say, no. I'm sorry, my eyes are going two different directions. When you feel emotional closeness, the kiss feels real. You understand? It's very different when there's emotional distance and the kiss is supposed to create closeness, but it's stiff. Versus if you build that closeness, the building blocks of an emotion, then when you come home from the mikvah, it's an expression of what you created and kept inside of you because you're nida, and then it all comes flooding out in that wholesome expression when we're tahar. So that, I have to stop talking because of all these questions. You see, I could talk forever. Okay, so in 5 minutes, we will do questions. So I can't, okay. Is the heter to wear pajama pants under a long nightgown? Okay, so I just want to tell you something. Pajama pants could be is pajama pants considered a beged ish? That's a separate halacha. You have to ask your Rav. There is a minority view that any pants is a beged ish and should never be worn by women. But that minority view is overridden in the event that your nightgown pulls up and your legs are exposed. For the majority view that pajama pants do not pose a shaila of beged ish, then you could wear those pajama pants when you need to. It doesn't necessarily have to be only, to avoid when it rolls up. So that people don't notice, should people have a siman heker all the time? If all of a sudden your period appears, I think every couple has their thing, their emergency thing. Let's say he comes home from shul and you have to tell him your nida. You're going to have your siman, you're going to have a way that he notices. And the same thing with siman heker. You have that emergency situation that if I didn't tell you I'm nida, if you see this unique thing on the table, this is what it's all about. If you always have a siman heker, then it's not a siman heker anymore. You understand? So it will undo it. So your husband is allowed to pass you challah at the Shabbos table. We don't pass the Kiddush wine. If you want to serve your husband And if he doesn't see the serving, you put it down when he's not looking. That seems okay because you're not doing it in front of him that he notices. Well, he turns around and his meal is there. Can he make her bed not in her presence? Yes, he can make your bed. You can both make each other's bed if you're not in each other's presence. A kiddush cup cannot be, I only asked this one Rav, maybe other Rabbanim say different, but if the kiddush cup is not good enough for a siman heker on the table. And you should have a siman heker, and so the question is, if he's making kiddush, do you need to ready the siman heker during kiddush if you're both eating at the same time? So that's an interesting question. I don't know why I never thought of it. So you ask your rabbi. What's the preferred way of seating couples at your table to avoid nida issues? I think people are careful. I mean, if you have a very squishy table, that's one thing. But usually if everybody has a chair, they could avoid touching each other and they'll be careful. But if you have a special squishy situation, so I guess the men on one side and the ladies on the other side, I don't know. It's a good, I didn't think of it. Okay, so this is a hashkafa question that is important. How do you discuss with your children about intimacy, about mikvah, and all this topic? This is off topic, but an important topic, so we'll have to do that another time. Again, in front of growing children. This is a separate topic of behavior in front of children. Should you practice dinei harchaka in front of your children? Or if you don't practice dinei harchaka in front of grown children, because they'll notice if you're nida or not. The question is, we don't display affectionate touch in front of, including our children. And there's a makar even from a very young age from our rabbeim. How young that age is, you could ask your rav, because I don't know the makar by heart. I don't want to misquote, but it's something that we show our children how we care and respect each other through words and actions, and you as a child know what the mood of your parents, not so much by the hug or the kiss or the pat on the back, but the way they spoke and acted between each other. The panemius, like a part of the relationship, I'm just telling you as a college teacher from the other perspective. There's a whole it's a separate discussion. It's not the laws of Nida, but it's something that needs to be discussed because people are thinking, oh, you have to display affection. How are kids going to know? It's the opposite. There's so much emphasis on the physical aspect of the relationship. What we need to build is the panemius of a relationship. That's what's missing. We need to pull in the other direction to find the balance. Overdoing the physical aspect just feeds into that pull of that magnet that the whole marriage stands on three legs. Not Torah, Vayda, Gemilas, Chasadim, but physical and physical and physical. So we have to put that strong leg foundation. But that's much more I could discuss with you just from anecdotal evidence and facts on the ground, but this is not, the truth of the matter is, I wish I could discuss everything over here. That's really my thing. I still have to, if you wish me kfisa sadera, how long did it take me to get here? 2 hours and 15 minutes? See, wow, amen, okay. Okay. So I can't, unfortunately, I can't read this handwriting. So do you want to read it and tell me if it's something that I need to answer? Okay, I can understand now the Rabbanim. Ask a shayla on this handwriting. This is the most, thank you for the fabulous shiurim. Wow, thank you for that. That's beautiful.
The stuff you just described, how do you create that when not needed for an extended period of time? The stuff that you just described.
So that's, okay, again, it's not a needed question, but we could give you practical, there's every couple, okay, this is a separate question. I don't want to, I'll just say it in a nutshell. The mitzvah of oina has to be pleasing on both ends. So the frequency and the style is something that has to be related to. So if you don't have a built-in nida time, for whatever reason, that creates already a certain anticipation or a certain, up and down and in and out kind of thing, you can create some of that mechanism, but before, artificially sort of. But I want to tell you something. There's a certain frequency that's considered healthy for a couple. Nowadays, Paiskim will say, let's say intimacy once or twice a week. If you don't even have a desire for that, the question is why. Let's understand what's going on behind it. You know what I'm trying to say? So that there could be underlying reasons how that could be shifted. And there could be many reasons for that, but that's a separate discussion. Maybe we should put that. If you constantly switch beds, you have to ask a shaila. He may have to sleep on the floor, which is very not respectful. No, it's really, you have to ask a shaila. It's a problem. Okay, our bed's supposed to be the same size. Halachically, it doesn't matter the size of the beds, but I know, I could quote Rabbi Chaikin, for chinuch purposes, it's best to have two of the same size beds. That mommy doesn't get the bigger one. You understand? Tati and mommy have both the same size beds. If you want a mattress on the floor because of a baby, should his also be on the floor? Because you don't want, I would suggest instead of mommy sleeping on the floor, get the guardrail so your baby doesn't fall out of the bed. I don't think mommies or tatis should be on the floor, if that was a question. If you're tahar, of course, that's when you would switch beds when you're tahar. But switching beds when you're nida is when it's problematic. 1 second. I mixed up these papers now. Okay, so I'll turn over this pile because this was the rest of the pile. If you forgot a morning bedika and remembered later, when is the deadline? The deadline is shkia, and I'll tell you why. Because if you start doing it after shkia, what's going to happen? Your deadline will be extended. So if we know shkia is the cutoff time, it's shkia and then you lost it. Oh, the morning one is when you wake up. So do it. So do it when you remember. That's a good question. Yes, do it when you remember, because you're supposed to do 2 bedikas daily. But then ask yourself, why are you forgetting? Because I guarantee you, you were definitely in the bathroom between when you woke up and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you weren't, you better start drinking 8 cups of water a day. You could shave the night before of mikvah. That's totally fine. But if you do it the night before and you don't like how it looks the next day, you better do it the day of mikvah and clean yourself well than doing it a day before and feeling, I don't want that here or there, because when you're going to learn about the laws of chatzitza, you don't wax the day of. It doesn't say anything about 3 days. The haircut, it says about 3 days. The day of, you don't wax. Yeah, but to be cautious, I said, put on those socks or a black cotton pair of tights and take it off. You're going to see that little fuzz. So you know we have to remove, because the shower may not necessarily take off that wax, especially in hard-to-see places. I find it very unrealistic not to pass a newborn baby after birth. This seems like a necessity, not a way of showing affection. So let me tell you, K'nai Nahar Hashem benched me with enough babies to know that it's not a necessity. There are rules. You can work around it. Like someone who's not firm will say, how in the world do you not turn on your phone on Shabbos? I mean, that's ridiculous. How do you live 24 hours without picking up your WhatsApps? I mean, it's not a life. That's ridiculous. So let me just tell you that if the Torah says you could do it, it's not a necessity. The question is practically how to make it happen. So speak to you can call me, I can give you some ideas, but there's just a little practical ways. You always have a carriage, you always have a car seat. I remember the first time when I had my first newborn baby. He was born Erev Pesach. We lived across the street from a shul, so I brought him on Shvi Shel Pesach for Birchas Kohanim. But because I was holding him and I just wanted to walk across the street, I don't remember, I brought it, maybe I had him in a carrier, and I found my husband, and I'm like, how do I do this? And then I learned. So sometimes you learn after the fact. And I didn't even think, because it didn't happen, you know? But no, we didn't pass it each other. Somebody right away took the baby and gave it to my husband, because it was newborn, like it was obvious, like we couldn't pass. Right, so you could ask, yeah, what's the big deal? But this was like, I didn't have time to think, what should I do? It was done for me. But since then, for Birchas Kohanim, the baby will show up in a carriage.
What if there's no one else around?
The baby is never in danger. You put the baby in a safe place, wrapped up in a blanket. There's a seat on the plane. I will tell you, you learn from mistakes. I remember the first time I went through security. Okay, we had baby, another kid. husband and wife, and I'm Nida. Now, you know the security guy can't take the baby so I'm handing him the baby, and he's like this, and my husband's right there, and where should I put the baby down, and I have to walk through, and we have, and then, to make it less complicated, the next time I said, we're going on 2 different lines. I take this kid, you take that kid. I'm not making a whole scene that I'm asking the lady behind me to take my baby, and my husband's right there. So there's, you improvise, you're resourceful, you know, but you're not going to break halacha. Halacha is halacha. What? What? I don't fly often. For me, that was a new experience. It's awkward, but halacha is halacha. If the Eibishter, put it this way, the Eibishter values the concept of shame and embarrassment. Yehuda and Tamar, it's a mitzvah goes to say, you're not going to embarrass another Yid. If the Eibishter would feel it's an embarrassment, he would never impose this halacha on us. What does the Eibishter feel it's embarrassing? Showing our hair. So we have to look from Hashem's eyes, not from our eyes. With which glasses are we using? Put on Torah glasses, and you see a whole new world out there. So this is if you're teaching someone not from about mikvah and about dinei harchak and all that. My advice to you is to speak to somebody who does teach not from people. That's not my field at all. Mikvah.org has a mentoring system. They have mentors posted. Go there. People are happy to help you to teach what to teach about dinei harchaka. I want to tell you that a hug and a kiss is an Isser Goysa Seder Raisa. That you have to teach. They're not buying 2 new beds right away. Some will say, put a roll of towels, between, so you shouldn't, come on, you're putting them in the same bed. There has to be something. So you have to know what they're allowed to. I just remember one shlucha saying the opposite. How she teaches everybody down to the last detail. They should see the whole picture first, and then say, how could this apply to you? Some people, they actually appreciate the full picture rather than a watered down version. So you have to know your customers and see how that should be presented. Okay, we have to discuss hair covering at another setting. And so we have to discuss hair covering. We have to discuss how to teach children, how to talk to children about mikvah and about intimacy and all that.
Coming back or something?
I don't know when I'm coming back, but I'm not talking about this now because I don't want to be here till tomorrow morning. We'll have to think about it.
There's no traffic at 5 a.m.
Where's the source? Okay, I want to tell you something. You identify me as a Kala teacher. I'm a mother. I wake up in the morning, because I'm a morning person, and I make sure my kids have a good breakfast. I'm in the kitchen 6:45 in the morning. And I cannot afford not being a mother, because then I'll feel so guilty, and then I'll be a bad mother if I feel guilty. A mother should never feel guilty. So I'm going to not stay here. What?
That has to be another class.
Yes. What? Come to me 6:45 in my kitchen. Yeah. What is the source? No, because I have so little time with them that I have to make every moment with them compact. Where's the source of the Tzemach Tzedek discussion hair coverings? I want to just tell you that I could email it to you, but in the Tzach list, the old-fashioned one, I don't know if there's the hard copy, there is in English the Psak Din of Tzemach Tzedek about hair covering written there in English, black and white, so you could see it there. It's as clear as posted. Or if you want, I could scan it and email it, and she'll send it out. I happen to have taught it today in Beis Rivka to my students. If I'm wearing pajama pants, I need a white pajama top. Okay, so here, if it's see-through, it's not tznius. A see-through white nightgown is asur. So that tznius is halacha that overrides the hiddur of white. Okay? Now, if you need a white pajama top, not just pajama pants, you have to ask your Rav if this hiddur extends nowadays or not. There are definitely different opinions on that from great poskim. If your husband is pushing a cart, he lets go and you put the item inside. Or if you're... Stop. Oh, does it have to stop? That extra roll on the wheels? I don't know. It's a good question. It's so nice that you go shopping together. Maybe I should do it myself.
No.
What?
Don't.
Should I feel guilty showing my husband my hair? It depends for what purpose. If it's for the purpose of shalom bayis, it's for the need of shalom bayis. What could be more beautiful than that? So is it a need? What? No. Do you sleep topless?
No, my hair.
Topless is topless. No difference in halacha.
It's so uncomfortable. It just falls off.
So I'll give you tips how to keep a tichel on. Call me tomorrow, I'll tell you. No, I have to go.
What's your number? This will be the last question.
A kid. Yeah. One second. I feel bad for this young lady. There are different practical ways to keep tichach on. If you want, they sell pull-on knit kind of, you just pullovers, and when it gets loose, you throw it in a hot dryer, not a cold dryer, and it shrinks. Some people have to shrink it once a week, once a month, and that lasts for a long time. So they sell, it's like a knit pullover, and that stays on your head. It won't fall off. If anything, it'll go to your nose. Very mahudar. That's one thing. And then there's other options. There's some tichel that come with a band inside. If you wear a stiff tichel, you're going to move. You know what's going to happen? It's going to slip right off. But if you choose like a jersey type of material, and do you know how to sew like a needle and a thread? No. Okay, so I'm not even going to say. Okay. Maybe your husband does. Okay, so give a little pinch at the nape, and you make it a little snug, but if it's a stretchy material, when you move, it'll stretch, it won't fall off. Safety pins, okay. But they have also what's called tichel clips. There's a peel and stick combs that you could stick it under your tichel. Some people just put it over here. It's like a little comb.